Miami Hurricanes are about to lose one of their edge rushers into the transfer portal. Why? And what do they have left at the position?
You are Locked On Canes, your daily podcast on the Miami Hurricanes, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Happy Truth Teller Tuesday. I'm Alex Donno. I'm a University of Miami alumnus, longtime South Florida sports radio vet, and also host of Locked On ACC. Thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch. To the everydayers, we love you. We're available free wherever you get your podcasts. We're free on YouTube. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Happy Truth Teller Tuesday.
Yes,
On this episode, this is where I need to talk to the truth teller about how much pressure he thinks is on Mario Cristobal this year.
Yeah.
I do want to talk from Cristobal to crystal balls. Miami's been predicted to land a really good player in recruiting. They just landed a really good player. We talked about Luka Gilbert this morning, but another one could be on the way. But Bruce, I wanted to start with the impending departure of Nyjalik Kelly. It was reported this morning that Miami, heading into his third year, defensive end Nyjalik Kelly is going to enter that transfer portal April 15th. I'll ask you first, were you at all surprised by this?
No, because a lot of those players are already thinking about what they have to do by the end of this week, which is either stay or get in the portal. And many of them know that they're not wanted to come back. Does it come out in public? Of course not. But there's kids that know they've got to make decisions. And so Nyjalik never really achieved what we thought. He was hurt a lot. I don't think he really gained the bulk. He came in thin. I don't think he was even going to play that much this year. I heard he was injured, and he might not have gotten in the games that much. You know, there's guys he has to beat out. Why do you think they're bringing in Romello Height? Or at least they want to.
Right.
So I don't think it's a big loss only based on the fact, what has he done since he's been here? If he had done a lot and all of a sudden he says, I'm leaving, then you have to say, damn, why is he going? Why is he going? So I don't think it's that much of a big deal. It just happens to be a name that we thought was going to be good. It didn't turn out that way.
See, I don't know. I think this could be one of those where if he lands, and I don't even know if it really even matters where he lands, because I think he's a really good player and he could end up developing somewhere else. I think this is going to be one of those where in a couple of years, it's like Nyjalik just got 10 sacks. Miami used to have this guy because he looked really promising his freshman year.
Yes.
His true freshman year, which is Mario's first year, 2022, he had 15 quarterback hurries, 4 sacks, playing kind of a limited role as a freshman, really good bend. But then, like you said, like last year was not really much of a factor because he was injured most of the year. So I think that the big reasons why is Nyjalik Kelly leaving, people will wonder. I know it's not because he doesn't like Miami, because he loves Miami, and his mom, for anyone who's on social media, his mother has been just a vocal proponent of Miami. So I'm going to miss Nyjalik and his family in this community, and I wish him the best wherever he goes. But you touched on something there, Bruce, is the injury that cost him most of last year, the recovery from that, and I don't know how close he really is to coming back. And then you also look at, from Nyjalik's point of view, again, everybody wants not only to play, but to earn consistent playing time. And this is a position, edge rushers, where Miami does have a lot of options. You've got veterans like Elijah Alston, who's doing really well so far in spring.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
From Marshall. Yeah, Akheem Mesidor is coming back from injury. Right. We know Rueben Bain is going to start and play a ton of snaps. So I think the big question, Bruce, is will some of these young guys really step up beginning this year when you have Jayden Wayne and Malik Bryant, who's moved from linebacker to edge, and I think he'll be really good there. They're heading into their second seasons. You've got Marquise Lightfoot, who's going to be a factor maybe sooner or later, and Armando Blunt, who's hurt right now in spring, so he hasn't really been playing in spring. But how long is it going to take him to come along? So there are a lot of bodies there, and maybe Kelly realizes I can probably get more burn somewhere else.
No, what else could it be, Alex? It's got to be that. Why would you want to stay here and be stuck here when you can put his name out there and say, I'm going? Now, I don't know who's on his neck. I don't know what's going on behind the scenes. There could be things he knows he may get picked up by Louisville or one of these. Louisville's got a few of our guys. He came in with a lot of speed. but he didn't have the bulk, and then he got hurt, and then he couldn't bulk up. So, maybe he gained some weight, but I think he lost his edge, and I think Miami's looking to move on from him, and there's going to be other names coming out in the next couple of days. I told you that before. That's what's going to happen. But you're asking me about, the other players. I don't really know what's happened. I'll be there Thursday at practice with you. I'll be down there with Caesar and Steven, a bunch of the former players, and then we go to the scrimmage, the game, the spring game on Saturday. So we'll see some of these guys. But I don't think Kelly is as big a loss only because he doesn't have the stats to say, oh my God, why did he leave?
Yeah.
Like, why did Parrish leave? He was going to start.
Yeah.
He was the starter, but I guess he wanted Mississippi. Maybe Mississippi offered him something. I don't know.
He's only the starter. He's only the starter if Fletcher isn't healthy. So that's kind of, because he knows as soon as Mark Fletcher is full go, Parrish would not have been the starter.
Right. And he knows there's other guys out there too. He sees Citizen. He knows that Lyle's coming. You got Johnson, who's now getting some reps, although he's still not going to be a major threat. He's not going to be in the backfield 20, 25 times a game. He's too slight. At least for now, he is.
Now, when you brought up, you kind of joked about Louisville, which is not really a joke because I have no inside information as to where Kelly's going to end up, and technically, no one can even talk to him until the 15th because he's not officially in the portal until the 15th. I know some people will say, well, tampering always happens. I mean, listen, I don't know anything about that going on, but I will tell you that one of the advantages for declaring kind of early to say, I'm going to enter the transfer portal is, even if communication is not happening with other programs, you're letting every other program know, hey, I'm going to be available in less than a week. So make sure you have me on your big board. So now teams do know they're going to have an opportunity to grab Nyjalik Kelly. Since, I do think he can turn into a really good player. I hope he winds up somewhere that he's not going to face Miami, at least not on a regular basis. But there could be options within the ACC for him.
Yeah, there could be.
I'll bring up Duke. He never played for Manny Diaz, but Diaz was the guy that recruited him most of the way. Mario had to get it over the finish line right when he took the job here. So I wouldn't rule out a place like Duke. I definitely wouldn't rule out Louisville, Bruce, because it seems like half the guys who leave Miami in the portal, they either go to SMU or to Louisville. Now, Nyjalik has no connections to Rhett Lashley at SMU. He was already, gone before, and he's, different side of the football. So I don't know if SMU, but there are, maybe former Miami players he's friendly with who are over there. But I definitely, if I'm just going to spitball here, would not shock me if it's Louisville or Duke.
No, it wouldn't shock me either. But you know what? It doesn't matter anymore. He's not a Hurricane. So he's a non-topic for us. We talked about him, but he's walking out the door. Let him go. I hope he does great. I hope he really does great. Certainly Louisville has that attacking defense too, where they love the speed on the edge. So let's see what happens. But you were talking about some guy that, unless you want to take your break, the crystal ball to Miami. We don't know if he's coming either. But you know what? I got to tell you, as we get ready for later on in the show, we talk about crystal ball and the pressure he's got. With all these recruits, with all this buzz that's been, and when I watched your show yesterday with Bluestein talking about all these kids, if Miami gets these kids and they don't get the 10 wins this year, the house of cards could just fall apart. I don't want that. I know I'm Mr. Negative, but you know what? Damn
really,
well.
You took it to a dark place there, Bruce.
If he goes 8-4 this year, how the hell could they lose 4 games with all this talent? So, yeah, the pressure's on, but we'll talk about that later.
Well, and I love it. And we are going to talk about the newest crystal ball prediction. We're starting to get a little spoiled. I hadn't done a welcome to the U in a while. We did one this morning for Luka Gilbert, the 4-star tight end.
Yeah, wow.
Maybe we'll have another one coming up soon because Miami has been projected to land one of the top defensive ends. Maybe this is why Nyjalik Kelly decided to get out because he sees what's coming in. We'll talk about it and so much more when we come back. Keep it locked right here to Locked On Canes. And I know you're keeping it locked to FanDuel, America's #1 sports book, because guys, the action never stops. It's playoff time in the NBA and the NHL. Baseball's in full swing. Our Marlins have actually won a game, right? They got one win. FanDuel is your place to bet on every game. Right now, new customers get $150 in bonus bets guaranteed. That's $150 win or lose. Bet on everything from slap shots to home runs to slam dunks, all on an app that is safe, secure, and easy to use. We've been talking a lot about those ACC win totals. Maybe Bruce scared you into taking the under now, but Miami's win total is 9.5 for this coming football season. What are you waiting for? Visit FanDuel.com/lockedon and make your first bet an automatic win. FanDuel, America's #1 sportsbook. Thank you so much for making this Truth Teller Tuesday episode of Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. Bruce mentioned we're going to be out at practice on Thursday. We'll be out at the spring game on Saturday. This is a good time to become a Locked On Canes insider. Guys, if you haven't signed up yet, I include the link in the show description below. When you become a Locked On Canes insider, you get text messages directly from my phone to yours with breaking news, recruiting scoops. I've had trouble keeping up with all these recruiting developments the last couple of days, but we were all over Luka Gilbert. We're all over Zion Grady, who we're about to talk about. We give you practice updates. Try it free for 14 days. Click the link below to become a Locked On Canes insider. And then if you like it, you can opt in after 2 weeks for $4.99 a month. We give you a lot of added value on there. So you love a mid-afternoon Fong ball. Steve Wiltfong, and actually they're no longer crystal balls because Wiltfong, he hit the transfer portal. He was at 24/7 Sports where they've got the crystal balls. He's now at On3 where they have the RPM prediction. Same thing, different name. Steve Wiltfong has predicted Miami to land 4-star edge rusher Zion Grady. He's the number 8 edge rusher, number 63 prospect overall in the class of 2025. He was on campus this past weekend. He's been down to Miami multiple times, but he was really blown away with the unofficial visit this past weekend, Bruce. And what, first of all, I've been hearing.
Was his family with him?
Yeah, his dad.
Oh,
his dad. It might have been more than just the dad, but I know dad was with him because dad made some comments as well about how much they enjoyed the visit. So oftentimes you win over the family. And listen, again, this isn't even a verbal commitment yet. This is just a prediction. But I like the way Miami's trending with Grady, and I'll get you his some of his stats and dimensions in a little bit. But if Miami can pull this one off, Bruce, it would be so impressive because this is another one like Cole McConaughey, who's doing really well, and Bobby Fruit.
Great things about him, yes.
But they'd be potentially taking another kid out of the state of Alabama. Like Enterprise High School, I think it's even closer to Auburn than it is to Tuscaloosa. Alabama, though, had been the trending favorite for Grady. That may change now with the Fong prediction. But if Miami can pull this one off, because Alabama is, it's not South Florida, but it is loaded with talent. This could be a great player if Miami can land this guy.
Well, when you have a family that comes and your father shows up and you're a defensive end and I don't care what school you go to, and you're getting recruited and you walk up and you see this 6'6" guy who's in the NFL Hall of Fame and you shake his hand and he meets the dad, and you know what? That's worth so much to get to speak to Jason Taylor. I'm going to take care of your kid. Are you serious?
Yeah.
I mean,
by the way, it was actually I just hold on. I looked at it was actually the uncle who made so I don't know if dad was also there, but the uncle was definitely there with him as well.
And if it's that important for the kid to bring his uncle, then it's important he meets Jason Taylor too. I mean, it doesn't hurt, that's for sure. It definitely helps if you get a guy like that in there and he meets Jason. I'm going to coach your kid. It's not like he's just a visitor. Sometimes former players show up. Hi, nice to meet you, blah, blah, blah. No, I'm not involved with coaching. This guy's right in the middle of it. He's right there. You know what I'm telling you? This is great, but I want to see a run on DBs. We've talked about DBs.
Oh, yeah.
You've mentioned Ewald and this guy and that guy and the kid, Marquise cousin. And what's going on with that? Where are we with the DBs?
I know Miami continues to put in the work with DJ Pickett, especially. I think that I don't know how soon he's going to decide. I think I've heard about like an October commitment date for him. Ewald, I'm not sure what his timetable is. Sometimes the South Florida kids can push these things a little bit late, but I can tell you, Bruce, and I've had multiple conversations with people who are either familiar with Miami's situation or people who cover recruiting for a living in general. Miami is trying to put the same sort of effort into recruiting defensive backs the way that they did with the defensive line last year, where they got the number one D-line class in the country, and the offensive line the year prior to that, where they had the number one or number two, depending on which recruiting service you use, offensive line class in the country. So I know that they're putting in that sort of effort there at the DBs. I think it's just one of those things. Like, you remember the defensive line class last year took a long time to materialize. A lot of times when you're dealing with some of these blue chip kids, they're not going to necessarily make their announcement until summer at the earliest. So they're trending with some players, a couple of the players you mentioned, but still waiting on the bombshell commits.
Yeah, but I'd like to get some of those crystal balls on the DBs. That's kind of what I was saying.
Ewald has been crystal balled before.
I think he's coming here.
Yeah.
I'll try to talk to Booker Pickett Sr. because I don't know how much he knows, but I do know he knows that the kid really likes it here. And it's, as I said on the show a few weeks ago, it's turned his perspective completely around. He really was not a Miami fan.
Yeah.
Not that he hated him, but he just wasn't a fan.
Right.
Now he's really involved with this, and he likes what he sees down here. I hope he pulls the trigger on us because we need some of those blue chip corners that could cover and not just be somewhere near the ball, which is what we've seen. It's
yeah.
And by the way, I wasn't negative, and I didn't scare away Nyjalik Kelly or anything like that, or scare.
No, I said you scared away anyone who was going to bet over 9.5 wins. You scared them to the under.
10. I say 10.
You say 10?
I say 10. But I'm just saying this is the topic. It's crystal ball under a lot of pressure. And I don't care about the money part. People will say, Bruce, you're wrong. He's not going anywhere. I'm not talking about the money. I'm not talking about his contract. I'm talking about us, me, Alex, you guys out there. If he loses to the Gators, what do you think? All this recruiting is going to, well, don't worry about it. He's a great recruiter. No, that's gonna come back just like when he didn't take a knee. It's going to be all over him. He's got a lot of stress and pressure on him.
What I've been saying about this is we're talking about the amount of pressure on Mario Cristobal for this 2024 season. I know Mario puts pressure on himself because my alma mater, he wants nothing more than to win here. Like, this isn't like a mercenary who's like, hey, I took the Miami job, maybe it's a stepping stone. Mario wants this to be his forever job. Like, he does. He signed a 10-year contract. I'm sure he'd like to be the coach here 20 years if he's able to be, sort of like the Miami version of Bobby Bowden or something like that. That's what he would love. But so, like, the external pressure, there is definitely some of that, Bruce. Like, if Miami wins, 8 games or less, I'm going to say the seat starts to get warm. It doesn't get hot because of the contract. I don't like to fire him after this season. It would have to be a complete debacle, which I'm not hoping or expecting would happen. I think to fire him after this year has to be a complete debacle, right? But I think anything, less than 8 wins or less, I think makes the seat start to be a little warm because in the conversation I had with Larry Bluestein, Blue pointed out with the way that things are trending, if you're talking about with the talent Miami's bringing in, trying to be a quote unquote contender, like a college football playoff contender, Blue feels like 2025 is the year where that could realistically happen if the talent gets developed properly. It's not to say we're not hoping for a good year in 2024 because Bruce, I can definitely, I think 9.5 is a good over under there. I could talk myself into 10 wins. So I do want to take a look at the schedule on the other side and get your take on that, because again, like when you're talking about getting to 10 or 11 wins, you got to look at some of these, difficult battleground games Miami has to win in order to do that. So folks, you know what you want to do? You want to keep it locked right here. We're not done yet on a Truth Teller Tuesday on this brand new episode of Locked On Canes. And thank you so much for making Locked On Canes your first listen and your first watch today. Hey, are you watching Fox Sports or ESPN on your TV all day? You have to turn down the volume with all that shouting. Make the switch to Locked On Sports today, a free 24/7 sports streaming channel program for you every day to bring you the biggest stories without all the screaming. Locked On Sports today brings you can't-miss analysis, opinions, and news, streaming 24/7 on YouTube or the free Amazon Fire TV channels app, part of the Locked On Podcast Network. Your team every day. And, Bruce, you bring up that Florida game. I'm hoping and expecting to win that game. Like, playing in the swamp is not easy. Miami's more talented than Florida. After that, you've got the games that should be free spaces on the schedule. You've got FAMU at home, Ball State at home, USF on the road. Miami should win that game. I know they gave Alabama a little bit of a scare last year. Then you've got Virginia Tech at home. Then you're at Cal, which should be an easy game, difficult road trip, easy game. Bye week, October 12th. At Louisville, October 19th. That's going to be a tough game. If you're looking at games they might lose, that's obviously one of those. Home against Florida State is another one of those games you might lose. You're home against Duke. You cannot lose that game. That would be a huge humiliation. You're at Georgia Tech. You need revenge in that game. Then you have another bye week. Then you have Wake Forest at home. And then you're at Syracuse, which, they seem to be trending slightly upwards with their coaching change and everything. Carrier Dome's not, or whatever they call it now, the cellular something dome.
They don't have the talent, but I say that every year we lose to Georgia Tech.
That's right.
Who couldn't get out of their own way the week before.
Yeah.
And they come and they beat us at home, no less.
Yeah.
So that's the thing that we have to be consistent. Every game has to be like a Super Bowl or a playoff game. We have to have that chip and the edge that we used to have. And the only way you're going to get it if you win and you keep winning and you keep winning. Right now, there's really no identity. We don't have an identity yet on offense, on defense. Are we going to blitz? I think we have enough talent this year defensively to do a lot better. We don't really have a lot of pick six. We don't really have that many interceptions. We have some. A lot of them are overthrown balls or badly thrown balls. If we haven't had a kick or a punt return, we may have had it, but not consistently like we used to 2, 3, 4 times.
Yeah, we had the Brashard Smith scored on a kickoff return last year, but we haven't had enough of it.
Block punts, things like that, block field goals where we take it to the house. None of those things have happened in years. So to me, I'm excited about what we're putting on paper, but we all want to see it on the field, and we should be able to we should kick most of these teams' asses. We shouldn't be in games with Virginia Tech and Georgia Tech and Syracuse. We shouldn't. Just like we blew out Boston College, that's the way we should have played in all the games, but we didn't. Why not? Does that concern you? The lack of consistency?
Of course it concerns me. And also like the way Miami could go from soundly beating a talented Texas A&M team to then, losing games and even like the couple of the overtime games, the Clemson, that's a good win no matter how you slice it. But like the Virginia game had no business going to overtime. That wasn't a very good team. You got kind of embarrassed. At least your offense was embarrassed against NC State. Like how do you go from looking so good against a talented Texas A&M team to just, not being able to figure out some of these mid-level ACC teams?
Yeah, and we were losing in the A&M game. We came back.
Yeah,
we came back and we blew them out. So, those are the things, but this has been Miami's history. Inconsistent. Even when they were great, they'd sometimes play to the level of competition. They were almost lost to Boston College. Remember that? When Ed Reed got the handoff from whoever picked it off and he ran. Well, we almost lost that game. Yeah. Oh, my God. I'm watching. I go, what's going on here? But you know what? I think our offense is going to be 1,000 times better than we've seen it probably since the early 2000s. That's just my belief. I think they're loaded at every position. Yeah, you don't have your ace running back, but I don't think it's going to matter. I think Miami's going to score. I heard Blues say 32, 35. I say 35-40, just like last year.
By the way, when we were talking, transfer portal earlier, Miami losing Nyjalik Kelly, they might end up adding Romello Height, who visited last weekend. He's able to take visits because he's a grad transfer. The rules are different for grad transfers, just so people know. I also I don't know the names because again, we don't know who's going to be in the portal nationwide 6 days from now. But I keep hearing behind the scenes, Bruce, that Miami's going to take a shot at a big time running back, like that they don't just want to, bring in like a journeyman type of guy to get a few carries, that they actually want to bring in somebody who's like a featured back quality guy. And then, obviously once Mark Fletcher's back healthy, it's iron sharpens iron, whatever you want to call it. Cream rises to the top. But that Miami actually wants to be pretty aggressive and not just bring in some dude at running back. They want to bring in a dude at running back.
Right, I understand that. And I think they need a dude at wide receiver too, because that would really take the pressure off of Ward, off of George, off of Restrepo, off of Horton. If they can, like the kid from North Carolina was suspended last year and he shows up.
Walker,
someone like that who could take it to the house, that you just can't stay with him. That's the kind of guy I think we thought that the kid from Alabama was going to be that, but he turned out to be a nothing. Like Ty Harrell or something. So I think the running back, yes. Look, I don't know everything about this, but I know that I talked to Donnie Solinger off the air before we had him. The Lisfranc injury that Fletcher has is something that could last forever. There's no guarantee, like if you break a bone and you heal it, it's healed. This is not the same kind of a thing. So I hope if he's going to go, but let's just hope it doesn't happen again, because it could. That's a serious injury.
Yeah, well, hopefully he's getting the best possible care.
Well, I think he's going to play, but I don't know how long he could go. We don't know. Look at Zion Nelson. He's got a chronic knee issue. He's never going to play again. It's not fair to the kid to even tinker with him. Let him go on and do something else with his life. All right, you want to do the crystal ball pressure or no?
Well, yes, because I want to ask you, Bruce, what's your number of wins? Like if Mario wins fewer than X number of games, when does the pressure really heat up, and what would you consider a failure next year?
Losing to Florida right off the bat. We lose to them.
What 11-1 with the only loss being Florida? Is that okay?
Well, that's what happened when we won the first national title. We lost to them like 28-3 or whatever the score was, then we ran the table. But I don't think we should lose to them. And if we lose to them, because you said and I said when we beat A&M, that's the springboard, and it didn't turn out that way.
I know.
We were 4-0. We were 4-0. We wound up what, 7-6?
Yep.
So we wound up 3-6. The rest of it, that's not good.
No,
so
not good enough.
Beating Florida to me is the springboard. We should be unbeaten going into the ACC play again. I think 10-2 is the bottom line for him. I don't think 9 wins. I don't think 9 wins is enough. I think 9 wins.
So let me ask you that what happened? Like if he only wins 9 games, then what? Obviously he's not getting fired. So what do you do if he only wins 9 games? Are you just going to be in a bad mood for 9 months? Like what happens?
I'm always in a bad mood. No, no. I'm just saying. I don't know if Ward gets hurt and the other guys just aren't nearly as good as him. That's a factor that we can't look at right now. I don't know. Yeah. But we can't lose Bain. We can't lose Malinois at the linebacker position. We can't lose any of the big offensive linemen. But on paper, we should win 10 games. Not only should we win these games, we should kill some of these teams. They have no business being on the field with us. Now, I'll get called negative, but I'm very upbeat about this right now because I'm assuming. And one of the things we really don't talk about, although every once in a while we do, we have our coordinators back for the first time since when? Since Rick was here, every year somebody's in, somebody's out, somebody's in. Now we have the same coaches there the following season. Not the running back and not the DB coach, but I don't think that's a big loss. I think keeping Dawson and Guidry around, that's huge.
Well, yeah, and I can even go like with the position coaches, the most critical ones to keep from last year. Alex Mirabal is a given. He and Cristobal are joined at the hip, and he's an excellent offensive line coach. Keeping Derek Nicholson was really important, Bruce. And I think D. Nick, he's now been named co-defensive coordinator. I think they consider him like the DC in waiting that, hopefully if Miami's defenses keep playing well, Lance Guidry may get poached for a head coaching job somewhere down the line. And I think D. Nick is the guy who they think can slide in, keeping Kevin Beard.
And Beard. But I'm looking at this and
Jason Taylor. Jason Taylor is another one you had to keep.
Right. Yeah. I'm trying not to be overly excited about it, but it's hard to not be. Because look at all the close losses. Look at all the games we should have won last year and should have won handily. Like I said, we lost it. We didn't take a knee, and then we didn't call a timeout. So Georgia Tech scores a touchdown on the last play of the game. We had no business. We should have been killing them by that point in time. Yeah. We played like dog crap for 3/4 of the game. So you can't do that. That's why I think we're going to kill them too. I don't think anybody should stay with us except for Louisville, maybe.
Yeah.
Florida State, yeah. And maybe the Gators, because they're playing up there, and you can't let them jump out. We got to jump on them. And this is not the same Florida team. They will turn on their coach. They will boo this guy up there, and they're going to say, "Got to get rid of this guy," and it could snowball. We could blow them out.
And thankfully, they lost ETN, which I'm happy not to see him in their backfield.
Yeah. They lost him. They lost that receiver, that number 1, Pearsall. He's pretty. He made a lot of Restrepo type catches for them.
Yeah.
Very
no doubt.
clutch.
Well, listen, we always love the truth, and we love the honesty from the man we call the truth teller. Bruce Warner, enjoy the rest of your week, although I will see you in the latter part of the week. I'll be seeing you Thursday and Friday and Saturday, and so enjoy your next couple days.
Hey, if these guys want to, I said this a few months ago, if they want to come in and give us the guys' names they want us to get on the show, they'll be there this week, and all the alumni are coming in, and Alex and I'll be hanging around with these guys. Okay?
I love it. And by the way, I like how in the first segment, Bruce talked us out of over 9.5, and then he talked us right back into it in the final. Now I'm going for an alternate line of 10.5. I'm going for 11 wins now.
I didn't talk anybody out of that, but I think, well, first of all, you can't win a half a game, so you got to pick one or the other.
Oh, true, exactly.
9 or 10. I say 10 or 11.
Right. I say 12. Well,
what the hell? 12.
Let's go. All right. We'll talk to everybody next time on another episode of Locked On Canes. We are part of the awesome Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.